So I hope you were able to retrieve all of the books that have been read by this user and put in a list here. If not, no worries, we're going to do that right now. All right, so there are two ways to do this. The first one is you could use Stream Builder, just like we've been doing, and filtering all of the books from this user that have been read. That's valid as well. But one thing about that is that that will require you going back to the database and fetching data. Although that's not going to be a lot of overhead, as much as we can avoid making unnecessary calls, I think we should avoid that because it's just unnecessary calls that we are performing to the database, and it may also cost us money, especially if we are building this app for millions and millions of people. So another alternative would be, remember that we are passing here, remember we are passing this number 3, which is the length of the filtered books, right, that have been read, which means if we are able to pass that length, in this case the value, how many books have been read, we already have selected or we have already filtered those books. So we might as well use or pass a list of books, right? Because those are just objects. What I mean by that, if we go back to our main here, notice we're passing this books read. If you command click, this is where it is, but I can command click and go to exactly where I am getting that information, which is here. So remember, we say user books list, hover over, it's a list of books. If it's a list of books, it has the books that we want, right? So what we can do to make things even better is actually pass this one along, this object, well, this list, I should say, of books, this list containing objects to the create profile so we can use it here, just like we use this books read. Let's give it a try and see if that works, right? All right, so instead now of making this a local variable, I'm going to make this a class variable, at least, so that way we can get it or access it whenever we want. So I'm going to say something like this, book list. In fact, I'm going to make this actually a list of books, just to explicitly say the type, book list, user book list, like that. And in the beginning, of course, it's going to be empty. All right, very good. And then at the bottom, and then here, just remove this. So now we are actually referring to that. So we're setting it up there. And let me go back to there, or rather there. Okay, so we're setting that to contain those values. Okay, so now this user book read list, we can pass it as a parameter. Let's go to where we need to pass this, exactly where we're passing the books read. I'm saying command and click, let's see, there, here. So I can go ahead and pass the same value like this. It's going to complain because this is too many positional arguments. That means we need to go back here and say that indeed we are also expecting a list of books. Book list. Let's import book, the package book. There we go. So it's recognized. It's just to show you that this actually works. I'm actually going to use that. So I'm going to say book list. Is that what we call it? Let's see. I'm just going to say command V like this. I'm going to use that list because I know it's a list. I can actually go ahead and say dot length, and nothing's going to show because I need to put all of that inside of curly braces like this. I think I named something as a book list. Okay, that is the parameter. All right, no problem. All right, so this should work as well because we are getting the list containing those objects. And if I save it now, let's go, this user, click, and again, nothing changed. Okay, that tells us that we are indeed passing the list containing all the objects, even though we haven't seen the objects. This also tells us that now we no longer need to pass this books read, right? Because we're just passing the list anyway. That's fine, which means, of course, we have to go and change the signature here. We no longer need this. All right, now let's see how can we then make it so that we can see or create a list of the books, because we know we got the book list. So right after our container there, I'm going to put comma. I'm going to add a list view. Yes. Now, you also now remember that a list view requires a few things. First of all, I'm going to pass in this expanded like that, because a list view needs to know exactly how to draw itself, and it's always a good idea to put inside of expanded. List view. And then let's use that method. All right, in this case here, we also know that for each one of these items, all right, now list builder, we need to pass the item count, which in this case we can get from our book list that we're passing and get the length as such. And then I'm going to create the book object we can use, right? So I'm going to say book list and pass the index. So this will get us the current object as we loop through, as I should say the builder loops through to get all the books from our list. Okay, so now we have an actual book object we can use. All right, we need to return something here. A card, and this card for child is going to have a list tile. And let's just test things out. So I'm going to say title. It's going to be text. I'm going to use the book, that title like this. Okay, let's see if this works. I'm going to save that. All right, a lot of issues here. So whenever you see problems like this or something that says box.dart, you should open that. It's because there's some rendering issue in terms of sizing, layering things on top of something, where the main widget, the main view, it's not really necessarily getting enough information to lay out this widget you are adding. In this case here, let's try a few things. We've added expanded and we have our list view builder. And remember, list view builder is always complicating in a sense that it needs a little bit more direction. So even though we've added an expanded there, we should also wrap this inside of a container so that we give it a little bit more of direction or size so that it knows how to render it. I'm going to say container, and let's give it at least one size. So width, let's say about 200. And just see if this works. First of all, let's stop this altogether. And that's performing HUT restart itself. And voila, it works. So in this case, this worked because we were able to add expanded and then wrap the list view into a container. Let's use media query. I'm saying media query as such, that of, I'm going to say size, that width, I'm going to just get about 0.5, so 50% of the width of the entire container, if you will. So I'm going to save this. Oh, let's stop this first. Okay, that looks really good. So now it's just going to take the size of the width of the direct container or direct parent. All right, so it's working. So what do we want to do? We want it to look more like this, which means there is the leading circular avatar, title, then subtitle there, and something like that. Now this looks really tacky. You can make things even look better if you wish to do so. We're just going to go and put together the user interface, and you can change as you go. All right, now that we know we have no errors, this is working perfectly, it's looking good. Let's continue here. I'm going to add inside of this card, let's say elevation, I believe. Yes, elevation to 2.0 to give it a little bit of that nice card elevation. And then I'm actually going to wrap this inside of a column widget. It's going to be column like this, which means we will have to change that to convert that to children like that. All right, so we have list tile. There's a little bit more to do here. Okay, and now I'm going to use the leading, and I'm going to pass a circle avatar. You have a radius about 35, background image. It's going to be network image, and we're going to pass our book.photo URL. Let's pass in a subtitle, say book.author as such. Okay, and once we finish with our list title, let's add a text at the bottom here. This text will say something like this: finished on book.finished reading as such. But we know that we need to format it so we get the nice data nice date. So format date such, I'm going to just include all of this as parameters. Okay, let's see if this works. I'm going to save this. We have the book title, the author, when this was finished, and of course we do have also the avatar of the book. So it's just the picture of the book. All right, so that means then if I come here and say, oh, yep, this one I've read, great, something like this, it's actually going to be 5 now. Let me just add that. I'm going to say update, and it's gone. That means now it should have 4 books, and there you have it.